Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to share my time today with the honourable member from Northumberland, Quinte West. I'm very pleased to rise today to speak to the 2010 federal budget. As chair of the Finance Committee, I had the opportunity to hear from hundreds of stakeholders and witnesses on what they believe should be in this budget. I do want to thank all of those witnesses who appeared before the committee to present their suggestions for this budget, and I want to thank all members of Parliament from all parties who worked on the pre-budget report, which was tabled in Parliament in December of last year. Madam Speaker, the first recommendation of our committee was that the federal government continue with full implementation of current stimulus measures, pay close attention to debt management, engage in meaningful expenditure review, and prepare long-term debt reduction plans to be implemented once the global economic recovery is fully entrenched. Madam Speaker, I contend today that, in fact, we have fulfilled that first recommendation because Budget 2010 takes actions in three broad areas to achieve these goals. First, it delivers $19 billion in new federal stimulus under Year 2 of Canada's Economic Action Plan. Secondly, it invests in a limited number of new targeted initiatives to build jobs and growth for the economy of tomorrow, harness Canadian innovation, and make Canada a destination of choice for new business investment. Third, Budget 2010 outlines a three-point plan for returning to budgetary balance once the economy has recovered. In terms of the overall direction, it is completion of the second year of Canada's Economic Action Plan, our government's response to the global fiscal crisis and recession. It is part of a global coordinated plan at the G20 to respond with both monetary and fiscal policy actions, the monetary policy in terms of lowering and keeping interest rates low and injecting liquidity into the financial system, and fiscal policy by spending on all types of infrastructure, on human resources to stimulate the economy, looking after people who were hard hit by the downturn in the economy, and doing things like work sharing, which I'm very pleased to see it's extended in this budget because it's very important in my area of Edmonton-Leduc, particularly in the area of Nisku. I know a lot of companies there that approached me and said that they are using this in order to retain employees because once the recovery takes place, they want to have these employees so that they don't face a skill shortage as what is expected in Alberta in the coming years. In terms of the deficit, Madam Speaker, I heard this loud and clear through consultations, both through the Finance Committee, but also my own personal consultations in the riding. It was perhaps the #1 issue raised. People understand that they have to budget as Canadians, as families, as businesses, and they expect government to do the same. So they're very pleased that there's a 5-year plan outlined in terms of reducing the deficit, addressing the debt issue. But, Madam Speaker, what I want to do here today is address, in fact, one of the areas that was raised by the member for Markham-Unionville in his speech, addressed the area of innovation. One of my primary areas of focus as a member of Parliament since being elected 9 years ago has been in the area of science, research, and development. Budget 2010 continues our focus in this area and builds upon actions in previous budget and in the Science and Technology Strategy of May 2007. There are many investments in research and innovation in this budget. High Arctic Research Station, the world-class Triumph facility, which I was very pleased to visit as a member of the Industry Committee years ago, which was just a world-class facility, and I'm very pleased to see they receive funding. Increased funding for the granting councils and for Genome Canada. The Rick Hansen Foundation, knowledge transfer and commercialization. Additional funding for the College and Community Foundation Program. The National Research Council's regional innovation clusters. More funding for research and development of new technologies for the production of isotopes, and nearly $400 million over 5 years for the Canadian Space Agency to develop the RadarSat Constellation mission, the next generation of advanced radar remote sensing satellites. What this budget does is recognize that the investments of last year, particularly in terms of the knowledge infrastructure program, went towards building the capacity, and especially towards the knowledge infrastructure program and the Canada Foundation for building capacity. This budget addresses the human resources issue that was certainly raised by universities and colleges across Canada. I would also, Madam Speaker, if I can, I'd just like to thank Dr. Elliot Phillipson for all of his years of service at the Canada Foundation for Innovation. He's been the President and CEO since 2004. He's stepping down this year. He's done an outstanding service to his country, in my view, and I think all parliamentarians would want to thank him for his work. I do want to quote Madam Speaker, I know often we get into partisan debates and people watching this debate back home wonder who they should believe. Should they believe the government who's promoting the budget or the opposition who's criticizing it? So what I'd like to do today, particularly on innovation, is to quote from a couple of organizations, national organizations with respect to innovation and this budget. I'd first like to quote from the Association of Universities and Colleges. They did a release on March the 4th, and part of their release states this: the $32 million annual investment in the 3 major granting councils will help universities to pursue the kinds of research that will drive innovation and produce the highly skilled workers that all sectors of the economy need. The budget also provided $8 million for the indirect cost program. Economic stimulus efforts such as the Knowledge Infrastructure Program are helping Canada to emerge from this recession and to accelerate economic growth. And in fact, our Finance Committee, when we visited the University of Alberta, had the opportunity to visit some investments firsthand at the University of Alberta on the Knowledge Infrastructure Program. This program is indeed making a difference on campuses across Canada and paying dividends. As the program enters its second year, Canadian universities and research partners will leverage these new and renovated facilities to generate cutting-edge discoveries. The new investments in postdoctoral fellows will build on the stimulus provided by the Knowledge Infrastructure Program and the research funding announced today. The fellowship program, funded at $45 million over 5 years, will be internationally competitive and will help attract and keep talented recent PhD graduates in Canada, something I should say that the President of the University of Alberta, Indira Samarasekera, has hammered home to me many times, both as chair of the committee and as an MP from Edmonton.